might usually find TV presenter Stacey Dooley hanging out with sex slaves in Cambodia or drug smugglers in Mexico, but today she has chosen to spend a bit of her time with me. As PETRIe 67 explores the theme of exposure, we speak to the woman who has spent her time travelling the world in order to expose the stories of others through her raw and gritty documentaries. This is Elizabeth Neep reporting for PETRIe TV, and today it's time to hear Stacey's side of the story. So Stacey, usually it's you interviewing other people.
I know, I quite like this.
Today we're going to be interviewing you, Blood, Sweat and T-shirts, and can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I took part, so there were 6 contributors, and the idea was, it was brilliant actually, and it was something that hadn't been done at that time. So they wanted 6 consumers who were really into this sort of fast consumerism and the throwaway fashion, you know, when Primark had really taken off, and they took us all to India to show us how our high street garments were made, you know, and it was so surreal and it was so overwhelming and it was so sincere, you know, everything that they said happened really did happen.
Yeah.
So we were sleeping in the factories, we were starving, we were working 15 hours in a sweatshop, we came across, you know, child labour, acute poverty, all of these sort of current affairs issues, but it was in a very informative, in a very accessible way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was one of the best things BBC Three have done. I love all my documentaries for different reasons. My American series, I think, is very strong.
Yeah. So that's Detroit.
I did a few. So I did Detroit, I did Chicago, I did one about prisons in New York that I'm very proud of. I just think that was quite observational, but still immersive at the same time. And I think I went in thinking one thing about all of these girls. Some of them were a nightmare, some of them were unlucky, some of them were good people who had made stupid decisions. But I think that was a very clever film. And I've just come back actually from Honduras and Philippines, and they are very harrowing, they're very hard. So it's about paedophilia in the Philippines, and it's about sort of domestic violence and the brutality in Honduras, but they're very important. I'm very proud of them.
Yeah. So when you're handling those harrowing issues, how do you hold it together on screen?
Well, initially, when I started, no, I would just be crying the whole time. You know, and it wasn't, you know, on purpose or anything like that. I was just really gutted and really depressed sometimes when I was hearing how shit some people's lives are. It's as simple as that. And you know, there were critics saying, you know, you shouldn't be crying, you should be holding it together, it's not about you. And they're probably right to a certain extent, but I am only human.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I was given these gigs in the first place, because I was the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
So for me to go in like a hardened journo and not be moved is bullshit actually.
Yeah, like it does seem really intimate when you're chatting to people and you do get to see inside their lives. Like after you wrap, after you stop filming, is that it? Do you cut all ties with those people, or is there anyone you've interviewed that you kind of check in on? Or
yeah, it depends. So sometimes you have the conversation and that is it. Yeah. I spoke to a girl in Honduras, and she was one of the main gang members, and you know, and she was really, it was really weird because we were the same age, and she was tiny and she was beautiful and she got glamorous, but you know, she was responsible for killing 30 or 40 people.
But do you never, like, the critics have said that you're fearless and use those words for, like, to describe you. Do you ever get scared?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that always really makes me laugh because it's just such rubbish. I'm scared a lot of the time. I was very scared when I was made a documentary about crystal meth in Mexico. Yeah. And I was really frightened actually in Mexico, and I remember thinking I'm never coming back here because I'm just tired of being scared. Yeah. The new ones, they must watch actually because they're very good. We're very proud of them. I think they're due to air in September, but I'm not entirely sure because the channel's going through so many changes at the minute. So I don't know if they're going to save it for the online launch. But when I find out, I'll let you know.
Please do.
Yeah, and thanks ever so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, likewise. I'm so sorry that phone's going off. I don't know if you can hear it. It's my friend texting me about Joey Essex, which is obviously very important. As important
It's the two worlds.
as the things that we've just been discussing. I'm really sorry, and I can't turn it
alright.
off because there's a grain of sand in the phone. But thank you. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you so much, Stacey.
Thank you.